So I'm like studying the 10 plagues and stuff, and I just realized something. Because we are in a type of biblical turning of sorts, the 10 plagues have a lot of relevance to the current events going on with the water, the hydra, the plagues, the darkness, the lice, pestilence. Um, wow. When you think about with children dealing with RSV, and you're dealing with birth weight, firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn, fourthborn, whatever. Oh gosh, I kind of figured the more I uncover, especially studying aspects of the Old Testament, the more it's like, the more grim it's going to be. And I don't know if a parent could add on more weight to their child without it being super uncomfortable so they can handle this type of situation. I mean, low birth weights and high birth weights are obviously everything when it comes to evolution. And when you have a low birth weight, how could you possibly handle a very aggressive environment? And when you have such a high birth weight, do you have enough activity in the body to develop energy even with all the insulation? And so, obesity could be high birth weight, or you could have a lot of muscle or proteins and strength to you to handle the environment. But yeah, low birth weights are a concern, especially in this crazy environment. So, I, I have to connect all the dots, okay? It's not something that people really need to be scared about, but they should and they shouldn't. I mean, that's the thing. Since we don't know when anything is going to strike, we don't know really what the whole game plan is. I want my JJ crowd to be prepared for the worst. And I want my JJ crowd to find a way to preempt stuff if possible. If you have babies that are low birth weights, how do you get them? How do you pack on the substance so they can handle changes in the environment, changes in the frequency? I mean, I really couldn't tell you. You'd have to figure out what would be the safest scenario. But, the more I am writing this and seeing the writing on the wall, the grimmer it really is. The grimmer it really is. And, let me just read this because, I am concerned for people who have children who don't have a lot to them, and especially firstborn children. The 10 plagues of Egypt, the death of the firstborn. And so what is that? When the angel of death, that's like Passover, it's Exodus. When the angel of death passes over a house, they say the mezuzah or the lamb's blood will allow the angel of death to pass over. But what if someone doesn't have the mezuzah or the lamb's blood? So then what happens? So then it's the firstborn that are taken, that are sacrificed. But what does that mean in a current sense? It means that someone who is low birth weight has obviously, a lot of predisposed issues. Even the firstborn in a family, if you are the oldest child, you are obviously way deep into the matrix. You're older, you're deteriorating more. And so you might be subject to be the one that passes away sooner because you're older, just by the nature of the senescence, the deterioration. And so even with the firstborn in a family that has all adult children, the firstborn could be 60 years old and they pass away. The secondborn could be like 50. The thirdborn could be like 40. And so obviously then by that nature of how long you've been on this earth and your deterioration status, then yeah, the firstborn would be sacrificed. Then take that to a child situation. When you have 3 children, one child, I've seen it in families, one child looks really skinny. The second child is built like a brick shit house. You're like, holy shit, that child's eating everything. Oh, I've seen it in two different families. And even one wasn't biologically, related to the father. But the second child is like a rocket, is like completely very different than the first child. Even though two different fathers, same mother. Then another family, yeah, the first child is very skinny, very amiable, very, just sweet. Second child's like a fucking rocket, like off like a rocket, and built like you wouldn't believe, and eats everything everywhere. And so, yeah, so take a look at your friends and family who have children, because then you'll see scientifically how the Old Testament fits in perfectly with what's going on. Because, yeah, I mean, all firstborn were born into society in the process of undergoing changes. And so if the angel of death or high frequency wanted to destroy the old world, destroying the firstborn would be an obvious way to go, as the second, third, or fourthborn might still have some life and evolution still in them. The research backs it up because the later born children are larger, more sturdier, or have a higher birth weight. And so everything is based upon how the programming of a society was set up to begin with. And of course, reproduction. And so there's been enough experiments and enough observations of past births and families to accurately predict who is going to suffer the most in a change, in an evolutionary change. And so, yeah, we're in for some shit. We're in for some holy shit. And let me just read the 10 plagues real quick of Egypt. Because remember, we're in the Rosicrucians. We are in the Rosicrucians. We are part of the Rosicrucian order. Water turning to blood, iron oxide, frogs. Okay, you have a lot of areas that have a lot of frogs, or a lot of different species that are multiplying. Lice, flies, okay, livestock, pestilence, boils. Well, we're seeing that. We're seeing people with growths on their body. You're seeing a lot of the hydra inside their body that are coming to surface exponentially. I've seen certain types of growths in people's bodies that were all over, and they were just very dense growths on a person's back. It was pretty crazy. Hail, we were seeing that, right? Locusts, you're seeing that. Darkness, well, yeah, there's that too. And especially with all the the hurricanes and all that. And then the killing of the firstborn children. And so, yeah, just everything follows a certain sequence, time of events. And since we are in a great reset and we're changing from the old world to the new world, yeah, I see how the firstborn are going to have a harder time. I'm not saying the second, thirdborn aren't going to be affected. Of course they will be. But the firstborn, who is the older one, maybe even a lower birth weight with more predisposed issues, they're going to have a harder time. And it sucks because, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people with children. A lot of them. Do I wish this upon them? Absolutely not. But you have to be realistic in the world that you live in. And you have to, well, you don't have to. But if you want to preempt some kind of redirection and you want to save yourself and save your family, well, if your child has a very low birth weight and is very slight and is sickly, will they have the ability to handle a change in the frequency? Because it's going to happen if it's not already happening already. And again, I don't want to wish this upon anybody, but we are dealing with some pretty crazy stuff going on, and we have to face reality. Well, we don't have to. We can live in our fantasy world and be shocked and dismayed. But I don't want anyone shocked or dismayed. I want people to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. But the worst is yet to come. We haven't even scratched the surface of the worst. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. What's up?